Hello, welcome back to Ray Reads with me, Ray, and BOXROOM Jesus is joining us today. Mum and Dad have gone out, so I've snuck him out of the box room. More on that later. So this video is me talking about this book, Hope, a Tragedy by Shalom Auslander, and this was his debut novel. He's written some memoirs as well. It is very much in the vein of your Woody Allen type humour. If you're a fan of Woody Allen films, you'll definitely love this. And I would categorise it as, a tragicomic masterpiece, much heavier on the comedy, I'd say, than the tragedy stuff, although it does get kind of more serious towards the end. And if you love, you'll know I love absurdist fiction. It is very much in that. It very much falls into that category. The thing to say about this is I don't think this would get published now today. This is 2012. This came out. I don't think it would get published now, or I don't think he would get an agent if he was trying to get an agent, because I think they would class it as being a bit too risky. I read the Amazon reviews of this. Or some Amazon reviews of it, or the kind of the top ones. And people were very divided on it. So you'd got some people like me. I would definitely give it hands down 5 stars. It's hilarious. I laughed out loud a lot. It's the funniest book that I've read, hands down, since the Drew Gummison books that I've read this year. It is right up there, and it's one of the funniest books I've ever read, in my life. And I've read obviously a lot of funny books. But the humour is very much self-depreciating. So Auslander is a Jewish New Yorker, and it very much falls into that vein of comedy, of your archetypal, self-depreciating, Jewish humour, in the vein of Woody Allen. Now, Woody Allen obviously is very controversial at this point. I'll tell you where I fit on this kind of debate. So whether we're talking Woody Allen, whether we're talking Morrissey, the films of Woody Allen, the music of Morrissey, whether we're talking, let's say, the fiction of Neil Gaiman, right? 3 hugely controversial figures now, where they have had massive success, critical success, and been popular with audiences as well, but have obviously very much fallen from. And I'm going to put somebody else in there. I'm going to put Michael Jackson in there as well. Really, I think you have to separate the two. You have to separate the artist from the art. You separate the writer from the writing. You separate the director from the films. You separate the musician from the music, right? That's my take on it. So I still love Morrissey and the Smiths. I love some of his lyrics that are, just really deadpan and really, I think he's quite a funny writer. I think that's why I like Morrissey so much. I think, Neil Gaiman, I nearly actually, when I did my short story, my American short stories little video that I made last week, nearly put in Neil Gaiman's Chivalry, which is a great short story that I really love. And in the end, I didn't. Not necessarily because of the controversy, but I am aware that he is, a very, very controversial figure now. Yeah, that's my take on it. So I still think the early films of Woody Allen stand up as, works of comedy genius. I love a bit of Zelig. And if you've never seen, Oedipus Rex. So there is a film, and it's called New York Stories. It's directed by Francis Ford Coppola. And it's about a Jewish New Yorker. It's obviously starring Woody Allen, and the ghost of his mother. He's haunted by the ghost of his mother. So the book tells the story of Solomon Kugel, and it's narrated from his point of view, Solomon Kugel. And he's just moved into this farmhouse with his wife, his son, his aging mother, or dying mother, allegedly. They're sort of waiting for her to die, or his wife is, at least. And up in the attic is an old lady who may or may not be Anne Frank. So that's kind of the out there bonkers, absurdist sort of concept, behind at the heart of this book. And so Kugel is very much struggling with, he's neurotic, you know, and he's struggling with what's the meaning of life. And he's constantly thinking and obsessing over people's last lines and the last words that big famous figures have kind of uttered as they're in their dying breath, kind of thing. He's obsessed with that. He's obsessed with death. He often will think of a line and go, "Oh, that would make a good last, you know, dying. That would make good dying words," kind of thing. So he's kind of obsessed with death, and seems to be terrified that at some point his family are going to find themselves in the situation that the Jews found themselves in during the Holocaust, and that they will need to take refuge somewhere. So he will ask work colleagues, would you hide me and my family in your attic? And they'll go, well, under what circumstance? They'll go, well, you know, just whatever kind of thing. Would you? But would you though? Kind of hypothetically, would you do that? So that's one kind of thread of the narrative. He has a sort of mentor figure. I don't think we never meet this figure, but he will tell us that, you know, so he's called Professor Jove, who I just took it as being maybe his mentor kind of thing. And he will offer these sort of pithy words of wisdom at various points to Kugel, but it's very much recounted to us through Kugel. So we never actually meet this Professor Jove guy. And quite often Kugel will go, I tried to call Jove, but he didn't answer, he didn't respond, or I messaged him, but he didn't respond. So I kind of read it that this Professor Jove is a sort of allegory. I think it's heavily allegorical, this novel. So I very much read it that Jove is God, and it is this God that he, you know, so he has his words, as in you can go to the Bible for the word of God kind of thing. But if you try to actually communicate with him and get a direct response, you're not going to get one kind of thing. So it very much, I think, is somebody Jewish who is struggling with that whole thing of, you know, not having a faith and maybe feeling some guilt around that. That kind of strand of the narrative, you've got he's struggling, his marriage is kind of struggling because his wife doesn't want her mother-in-law living with them, and they also have a tenant as well that lives with them that causes some conflict. You kind of get the sense that his son is the only really positive shining light in his life kind of thing, but he's very fearful of, you know, he sometimes will say to himself, you know, that he shouldn't have bought this child into the world, cruel as it is kind of thing. So I think there's some kind of guilt around that as well. So that's the kind of setup. But then you've got he's got a very funny job as well, which I'll come to perhaps in a bit. But then you've got so his mother is this cantankerous old bat who is obsessed with the Holocaust and has told him that she's a Holocaust survivor. Kugel has these flashbacks to when he was at school, when at some point they've been taken on a trip to a Holocaust, you know, centre, kind of, you know, educational facility kind of thing. And he starts crying at a picture. There's a picture, and the teacher says to him, "Why are you crying?" And he goes, "Oh, I think that's my mother there." And the teacher's like, "What are you talking about? Your mother wasn't even in the Holocaust. She was born in 1945. She went to school with me in Brooklyn. You know, what are you talking about?" So his mother is just kind of obsessed with the Holocaust, seems to be have these delusions that she was actually a survivor of it, but in actual fact, we know that that's not the case. And one of the funniest, for me anyway, one of the highlights of the book is where another flashback, he goes with his mum. They visit Germany, so they go to a Holocaust site in Germany. And his mum is really annoyed at the fact that they've got rid of the showers are no longer there, the gas chambers are no longer there. And she's like really annoyed about that. So she goes, "Oh, we'll have to make do with the ovens then." So they go to the ovens, and she makes him pose for a photo by as if he's like, you know, about to be put into one of the ovens. That is the way that is written is just really hilarious. And then obviously you've got this other batty old woman who is purportedly Anne Frank, who tells him so basically he finds this old woman up in his attic. At first he thinks she's dead, and she tells him she's Anne Frank, and at first obviously he's not going to believe her, but then he sees that she has got numbers stamped on her arm. And again, this is very much allegorical. So I think what this is about is the baggage so I think, you know, thematically a big theme in this book is about history, the weight of history, and the weight of that historical trauma, the Holocaust, that has on the modern Jewish psyche, and it very much is about sort of the generations and the different approach from different. So, you know, his mum being much more kind of orthodox, and him trying to actually pull away from all of that, but feeling, you know, the guilt because of his mum kind of thing. So there's a lot of kind of survivor guilt in there as well. Another bit that I'll just specifically mention is there's a bit where he's kind of pondering on, you know, the Socrates thing of the unexamined life is not worth living. He's kind of pondering on that at one point. And then he goes, it was becoming undeniably apparent that an unexamined life is the only one worth living. Examined lives tended to end hanging by the neck in the shower. Life examiners tended to go out sucking on the barrel of a shotgun. And then he goes, life, examine at your own risk. Last words, not bad. So he's constantly pondering on what his own, you know, last words should be, which obviously reminds me of this and all of the, you know, epitaphs for Kilger Trout that you get in there, you know, of the gravestones, sketches of the gravestones. So yeah, I think it is that kind of very much American sort of, you know, brand of humour that you get with Vonnegut, and obviously, you know, I've mentioned Woody Allen as well. Some people on Amazon, I would absolutely give this 5 stars. It's, yeah, like I say, one of the funniest things I've ever read, but does have that depth to it as well. And I think this is my favourite kind of book, is where it's like seriously funny. And like divine comedy, right? So it's not just funny, laugh out loud funny. And obviously I love that absurd thing as well, don't I? But I love it when it also does have that thought-provoking element to it, or it has heart. I think this book definitely has heart as well. And yeah, it has a heart and a soul, as well as it having belly laughs. But also it's doing something for your brain as well. So you know, it very much is, it's very clever, it's very witty, very clever, and it does make you think, and it is doing things in terms of, you know, it's asking big questions, and it's making you think about and ponder these big questions about, you know, are we too hung up on the past? You know, are we, you know, doing right by our predecessors, but also, you know, our kids as well, and how we can pass that on to our kids and how damaging that is. So I absolutely loved it, as you can tell, and I would definitely give it 5 stars. Now, here is where I mentioned at the top of the video, this guy. So I'm giving it 5 stars all the way. And I would like to honour it in a new way. Let me know what you think about this idea. So I know I've called myself Rare Reads. That's what the channel is called at the minute. I'm not sure that that's working that well. I'm not sure it says that much about what the brand is. I do feel like humour is such an important part of me and the books that I love, not just the books I love, the TV I love, the films I love, you know, it's such an important thing to me. And I think we need it so much right now. I think if more people watched more comedy or read more comedy, I think maybe the world might be a better place. I just feel like it's such difficult times we're living in, isn't it? It's a lot, isn't it, at the minute? And there's so much, and I think anybody at the minute that's trying to take the world seriously, you're just on a hide into nothing, aren't you, really? You know, Trump, Elon Musk, Keir Starmer, Nigel Farage, you know, how can you take any of this shit seriously at this point? You know, I think the only way to deal with it is just through, you know, comedy, to laugh at it, laugh at ourselves, you know, and what a mess we're making of everything. So I want this channel to maybe be more focused on, you know, me talking about stuff that I've read, that I've found a good escape from all the shit show that is modern life. And I would like this guy to be more of a part of it as well. So I would like to maybe call the channel Seriously Funny Books or Divine Comedy, although I've not read that, so maybe I can't do that, I don't know. And I would like to, at the end of a video, when I've sung my praises for a book, send it, courtesy of this guy, up to book heaven. So let me know in the comments what you think to that. Yeah, I'd like to, you know, have a friend to help me on these little videos. Yeah, let me know what you think to that. Let me know what you thought to this if you've read it. Recommend me. And do you know what as well I would really love is give me some recs for any funny books that you think I'm likely to have not read, especially if they've maybe come out quite recently, especially if it's like the Drew Gummerson situation where, you know, he's very much, you know, overlooked and unappreciated, especially anything like that. Do let me know. And so that's it for this one. My next one will be talking about the 2 Guardian 100 lists that have been out recently. Please don't forget to like and share and subscribe and comment and all of that stuff. Tell people about me if you think they like the same kind of books that we do. And I will catch you later. Keep reading. Take care.